Ah, I found it. I found it. Na 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 na. I found it. I found it. La la da da da. Hooray! Boop. Nope. Come on. Come on. Oh, there I'm tiny. Now I'm too big. There's my face. Bum, 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 bum. Cha cha cha. Hello. Hello, Jen. How are you? I must be in the dog house. What did I say? Who knows? But I am not on anybody's FYP. And that's alright. I don't really care because I'm really doing this for myself. It's gonna be time to read. Alright, here we go. Continuing in chapter 2. The grief inherent with racial justice. I define grief as the normal and natural human emotion response to a loss, change, or lack of change of any kind, usually exhibited by deep sadness and or conflicting feelings. This is a big, long, wordy definition. Sorry, not sorry. So let's slice it up into bite-sized chunks, shall we? We shall. First off, grief is entirely normal. Many of us were taught that grieving is some maladaptive, overdramatic reaction. It's not. It's natural response to a change or lack of change of any kind. And anytime we experience a change like a move, breakup, job loss, miscarriage, end of a friendship, even happy shit like marriage, a job promotion, or becoming a parent, grief may arise. Grief also comes from a lack of change. For example, financial hardship, infertility, or 400 years of violent oppression. Our grief presents itself as uniquely as the stars in the sky, and we may feel sad, depressed, hopeless, guilty, or remorseful. But we may also feel a range of other emotions, be it for a triggering event or after or all at once. Emotions like anger, relief, shame, resentment, hope, or joy. Grief is less of an emotion and more like an experience. When I hold space for people in my racial justice workshops, I am mostly holding space for grief. The personal grief we each feel as a result of being oppressed or the oppressor, and the collective grief we endure at the hands of a hateful system that seeks to stamp out people who do not fall within the correct category of race, gender, identity, age, religion, citizenship, language, ability, sexual orientation, class, beauty standards, and the like. Somatic educator and intuitive Dr. Vanessa Tarankali states, oppression is a social trauma that traumatizes. Oh, I love that. Oppression is a social trauma that traumatizes, although in a very different ways, both the targets and the agents of oppression. For targets of racial oppression, this social trauma is continuous because it has existed for generations, and omnipresent because it is perpetuated by every system, institution around the globe. Racism traumatizes BIPOC individuals by restricting our social, civil, political, and other basic human needs required for survival. It also engages physical, emotional, mental, and or spiritual violence as a tool, be it actual or potential. As a queer black woman, white supremacy has caused me a lifetime of pain, from the loss of professional opportunities, love interests, and friendships. It is constantly being deemed as less smart. It is to constantly being deemed as less smart, pretty, worthy, or capable, to witnessing black people murdered without repercussion solely because they're black. As Claudia Rankine titled her New York Times article, "The condition of black life is one of mourning." She goes on to share that the unarmed, slain black bodies in public spaces turn grief into our everyday feeling that something is wrong everywhere and all the time, even if locally things appear normal. This is exacerbated by our gender socialization, as black women and femmes are often most primarily caretakers of our communities. As Audre Lorde said, black women traditionally have had compassion for everybody else except ourselves. The grief created by white supremacy is egregious for black folks, both historically and present day, but we are by no means alone. First Nation communities in Canada and the United States are forced to endure national celebrations of Indigenous genocide every Thanksgiving, not to mention continuous assaults on their land and identity. Latinx children of a variety of races are dying in cages at the U.S.-Mexico border, while detained migrant Black, Indigenous, and Latinx women are being sterilized without consent. Trans folk, especially Black trans women, are murdered at epidemic rates worldwide, and it goes on. The constant assault on my welfare and the welfare of BIPOC individuals worldwide is designed to keep us stuck, distracted, and fighting for our right to simply exist. There can be little, if any, thriving when the system is designed to keep us focused on merely surviving. And it's heavy. How white supremacy hardens our heart. White supremacy creates and perpetuates grief for all, but none more than Black and Indigenous women. It is a system of oppression that includes and perpetuates heteropatriarchy, transphobia, homophobia, fatphobia, ableism, classism, ageism, anti-Semitism, colorism, xenophobia, and all forms of oppression. It requires oppressors such as men, white folks, and cis straight folks to cut themselves off from themselves, their humanity, their own worthiness, and inner peace, in order to believe in the oppression of others based on race, gender, sexual orientation, or otherwise. As such, social trauma is continuous and omnipresent for oppressors as well as the oppressed. Transphobia harms cisgender folks by subscribing to a false gender binary and reprimanding those who don't fit within the subscribed male or female gender identity roles. Patriarchy harms men by causing them to feel shame for having basic human needs like vulnerability. The result of internalizing dominance is a deep disconnect. Yup. White supremacy requires all oppressors, especially white folks, to deny, dissociate, and defend. Ooh, I love that. White supremacy requires all oppressors. White supremacy requires all oppressors. I almost did it again. White supremacy requires all oppressors, especially white folks, to deny, dissociate, and defend. It robs oppressors of their inner peace and the ability to fully arrive in their heart space or genuinely connect with those they oppress, especially Black and Indigenous women. In the words of white queer feminist Mab Segrist, the pain of dominance is always qualitatively different from the pain of subordination. But there is pain in a psychic wound to inhabiting and maintaining domination. There is a lot of inner unconscious work required for oppressors to subjugate others based solely on race, gender identity, sexual orientation, or the like. White supremacy requires all oppressors, most notably white folks, to internalize dominance. As Dr. Tara Cowley states, dominance requires numbness, obliviousness. I cannot talk tonight, guys. Sorry. Obliviousness. I cannot talk tonight, guys. Sorry. Obliviousness to the oppression and those they oppress generally. Denial and defensiveness. Avoiding, attacking, and blaming those they oppress. Refusal to take responsibility for oppression and self-absorption. What of all of this adds up to, whether you are black or white, man or woman, gender conforming or not, oppressor or oppressed, is a whole lot of grief. Now, straight up, the grief of white supremacy causes white people pales in contempt. Now, straight up, the grief white supremacy. Kathy, my mouth is not wanting. It's not helping me today. Now, straight up, the grief white supremacy causes white people pales in comparison to what BIPOC individuals endure, and the shit end of discrimination stick. At the shit end of the discrimination stick. BIPOC, especially queer and trans, black and indigenous women, have little choice but to contend with multiple symptoms of oppression that seek to exterminate us because of our race, gender identity, and other marginalized identities. Alternatively, the race-based grief experienced by white people is often so subtle it goes unnoticed to themselves and to the collective alike. We don't know. We have no idea what our pains are until somebody points it out to us and we're like, oh, that's where that's coming from? Okay. Why didn't you say so? Why didn't we take care of this generations ago? The way that we've passed down childhood trauma and subjugated and alienated our children one generation after the other. The way we pit our children against each other. The way we teach them that they're not safe to be loud, that they're not safe to speak up, that they're not safe to stand up for, we just literally have tortured ourselves for generations so that we can then turn around and torture others. That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. Still, learning about the ways in which they have undoubtedly oppressed others, caused harm, and perpetuated white supremacy is tough. I know because I witness it every day. I witness in my work every day. To deny the existence of grief endured by all humans is doing racial justice a serious disservice. Harm is cyclical, and the extent to which white people are unable or unwilling to address their grief and trauma is the extent to which we can rest assured a world free of the system of white supremacy they created, perpetuate, and benefit from will never come to pass, like ever. The same holds true for anyone attempting to address the oppression they perpetuate on other grounds. The trick is trying to get people to understand that it's not an advantage to be complacent, to be caught up in that numbness, the obliviousness of the oppression of others, denial and defensiveness, avoiding, attacking, and blaming those they oppress, and refusal to take a responsibility for the oppression and self-absorption. Like trying to convince people that is here and that's causing not all, but a good chunk of their portion of their trauma that they're carrying with them. trying to convince them that so that they'll give up the white supremacy. Sheesh. Sheesh. Hey, Bjorn. Oh, like ever, the same holds true for anyone attempting to address the oppression they perpetuate on, it only leaves us empty, exactly, on other grounds. It is imperative to make space to honor all of our grief, both personally and collectively, so that we can heal our hearts and do the work required to create a just and free world for all, and particularly for those who have been most marginalized. Listen, I know this shit is hard. Unpacking white supremacy and its impact is triggering on mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical level. It takes courage, bravery, and resilience. It is a daily, lifelong work, and it is hard AF. And it must be done. You'll be learning how to do that inner work in these here pages. Facing our shadow and committing to authentic as opposed to performative or superficial racial justice is some of the hardest work you will ever do. White supremacy has intentionally conditioned us not to do this work. My racist grandfather's love for me changed me. I married my black husband and had 2 children. Changed him. I'm so glad that helped him. Just white supremacy goes so deep, so deep. Like we can even do the racial work, so that we can be less offensive and less outwardly racist. But unless we get rid of that white supremacy, we carry it with us in other places, like into our feminism or into our political stances. We'll just carry it with us. Because it's all connected. It's all connected. White supremacy has intentionally conditioned us not to do this work because our healing will set us free from the prison created by the most powerful and privileged. A liberated society will overthrow oppressive systems and stakeholders. Guys, that's the key. That's why. Look. The oligarchy is depending on us to keep this shit going because they know that as long as there is somebody that can be oppressed, that we can oppress, then we'll go along with it. We'll hand over the keys to everything as long as there's somebody we can be in charge of or be better than. And it doesn't matter who it is, because we all have something that we do. But that's the key, is to overdo that. Let me read that again. White supremacy has intentionally conditioned us not to do this work because our healing will set us free from the prison created by the most powerful and privileged, and a liberated society will overthrow oppressive systems and stakeholders. Right? That's why they hate it so much. This revolution, led by queer and trans, Black and Indigenous folks, has already begun. Trust me when I tell you, embracing my shadow side and facing the racial reality Trust me when I tell you that embracing my shadow side and facing the racial reality are not things that just fell into my lap. Shit took work. When I began to confront my shadow self and address the ways in which I perpetuated white supremacy and other forms of oppression, it was physically and psychically painful. I had to acknowledge the ways I had favored white people in my relationships, how I had toned myself down in order to appease whiteness. I ensure I did not make white people uncomfortable and in a words, survive. I got real honest about the ways I had participated in colorism and the ways I had oppressed other BIPOC people and queer or trans folks through thought, speech, action, or inaction. I am not proud to admit that I laughed along with my white high school friends when we partied on the Musqueam First Nation Reserve. It sickens me to recall when I believed bisexuality wasn't real, and it aches to think back on my 4-year-old self and the way she felt, and I had to stifle her truth and conform to whiteness in order to be accepted. Still, facing my truth has allowed me to accept and transform it. I still feel all the feelings because I am human, but I no longer am stuck in grief, anger, fear, or shame. Instead, I am devoted to and have the capacity for healing mine and others. This is why committing to racial justice requires working towards healing our own pain in order to get to the vital work of creating a world where the most oppressed can find freedom. And that's why the very first thing we did was had to set that intention. So just a reminder what that was. You had to set an intention at the very beginning where we had to read the affirmation below and then answer in a stream of consciousness and then edit until you can get it down to a statement. And that affirmation is, I'm ready to learn about spiritual activism, fight white supremacy, and do better because. So if you haven't already set an intention, there's your reminder to do so, because we're still got a long ways to go. And I have a feeling it's going to get harder. Oh my God. Okay, soul care versus self-care. Spiritual activism requires us to do the deep inner anti-racist work required for collective external shifts. And that inner work starts with and is sustained by spiritual self-care that I call soul care. Soul care. This is a care that tends to our hearts, helps process our pain, and nourishes our soul. Though the term self-care has partial roots in Black feminist activist circles, like those of Audre Lorde, it has become an overused and whitewashed capitalistic term void of meaning. That's the truth. That's the truth. Because I've always felt icky saying, oh, I need to do self-care, because it has always felt very capitalist to me when it shouldn't be, because there should be more to nourishing and caring for yourself than buying face masks or getting mani-pedis. Okay. I've witnessed far too many white women, especially cis women, tell me that they are not engaging in politics or watching the news or as a form of self-care when they've never engaged, usually requires money too, yeah, when they've never engaged with it in the first place. That may seem caring for you. Yeah, I am, you're right. That's why I'm reading this book. Thanks, Laura. This is written by a Black woman. It's her book, not mine. So it's her words. My mother told us about her gay friends and invited them and her Native American friends home. That's nice. That may seem carry for you, but your inaction is also perpetuating white supremacy and the oppression of others. I've witnessed ignorance, denial, spiritual bypassing, tone policing, and gaslighting, all forms of emotional violence, justified under the guise of self-care. Under white supremacy, self-care is often equivalent to self-indulgence and selfishness. Prioritizing ourselves is not the problem, but the issue arises when our self-care is not about self-care at all, but about indulgence that causes harm, all of which is, in fact, the least caring act you can take. Soul care addresses such harm. It is the actions or inactions we undertake in order to best care, yeah, right? to best care for our soul and highest selves as opposed to our ego or skin regimen. As opposed to our ego or skin regimen. Okay, let me read that one more time. The prioritizing. Prioritizing ourselves is not the problem, but the issue arises when our self-care is not about care at all, but indulgence that causes harm. All of which is in fact the least caring act you can take. Don't pick at your, but I want to pick at it. Don't pick at it, but I want to pick at it. Don't pick at it. I said don't. Okay. Where's my, I'll have to find my, it's going to drive me crazy. Soul care addresses such harm. It is the actions or inactions we undertake in order to best care for our soul and highest selves as opposed to our ego and skin regimen. It may be messy and hard and uncomfortable. Indeed, it often is. Soul care is part of the communal care and understands that we must care for one another as well as ourselves in order for any of us to truly be well. It says, my well-being is intrinsically tied to the well-being of others. So I will undertake actions that will help me to be whole, happy, and healthy, even when it's hard, so that I can fulfill my purpose and contribute to fighting for the collective. And that is the definition of soul care. One more time. My well-being is intrinsically tied to the well-being of others, so that I will undertake actions to help me be whole, happy, and healthy, even when it's hard, so I can fulfill my purpose and contribute to fighting for the collective. It is about giving ourselves what we need in order to nourish our being so that we can get into the world and demand a more equal and more just planet for all. It is a form of ancestral care. Self-care often manifests as getting a mani-pedi. I said that. Removing yourself from challenging convos, or consistently ignoring the consequences of white supremacist systems because they make you feel sad. It can be rooted in racist, classist, ableist, and patriarchal ideology. Soul care manifests as setting healthy boundaries, tending to your inner child, declaring your needs, going to therapy, letting go of people, places, and things that oppress you or others, and healing your heart from your personal pain so that you have capacity to support those most in need. As such, it is often based in spiritual offerings that support us in best supporting ourselves. For the record, I'm not knocking getting your nails done. I did mine. I get mine done on the regs. What I'm saying is that soul care isn't about treating yourself. It's more like brushing your teeth. Not something we necessarily love to do. I loathe it. But required for optimal health. Soul care, it also appreciates that the people who are doing my nails often do not possess class, race, and gender privilege that my need to feel good ought not supersede their access to basic human rights. Soul-care is about caring for ourselves in deep and meaningful manner that arms us to better withstand our discomfort, face our shit, and ultimately care for the collective. Instead of asking for remission, it sounds like soul-care is about consistent maintenance. I think so, and I think it's also why, for instance, how she was talking about the nail technician, that getting her nails done shouldn't be more important than the nail tech being able to live a happy, healthy life. Living livable wages. Making sure that everybody has what needs. what they need, so that my self-care, what I need, doesn't necessarily trump their needs, you know. Sorry, I know that's go is have higher priority than somebody else's needs. I think livable wages for everybody is a good sign of that. We should have livable wages for everybody, because while I may want a cheeseburger, that doesn't mean that the person behind the counter should have to work 3 jobs so that they can feed their family. Yeah, or not seeing them as somebody who's replaceable, actually paying attention to them, listening to them, interacting with them, so that their heart is maybe lifted a little bit too, instead of just treating them like a servant, right? Like they're less. That makes sense. I mean, after all, we're fighting white supremacy. Racial justice is an act of remembering and recalibrating. It demands comprehensive internal review. This is why right? I love that mind shift too. This is why I've included a soul care prompt at the end of every chapter, to support you in supporting yourself through this daily and never-ending journey of addressing your wounds in order to help heal the wounds of the world. Spiritual activism requires us to address our hurts and biases from the inside out, and it necessitates a surrender, none of which are easy. I was recently learning how to float in the ocean at 35 years young. And as I did, I noticed how hard it was to relax. No matter how much I wanted to float, no matter how many other body parts I softened, until I relaxed every inch and trusted I wouldn't drown, floating simply wasn't possible. As soon as I surrendered, my body followed suit and showed up to support me entirely, and I floated to the surface, because that's what a body wants to do. It's its natural response. But I was so stuck in my fight and fear that I didn't trust what was possible. Doing the inner work is a lot like learning to float. Your shadow will fight you, and you'll feel like you're going to drown. Most of you may be on board, but your inner child won't fucking relax. And so the whole thing goes to shit. Because every last ounce of you, your whole self, needs to relinquish in order to commit to racial justice. That was funny. White supremacy starts from within, and until we address what's going on in our hearts as well as our minds, there's no hope in hell of effectively eradicating oppression. The journey you're about to take will not be easy. You will feel all the feels. Sometimes you will feel all those feels towards yourself, and at times you'll feel a lot of feelings about me. Oh, I can't imagine being mad at her. She's too cute. No matter how it manifests, it is vital that the inner work for the outer shift gets done. It starts here, it starts now, and it starts with you. I love that. No matter how it manifests, it is vital that the inner work for the outer shift gets done. All right, spiritual offering and call to action. Dancing with your inner child. Oh no. Okay, but good. We don't have to do it on camera. This soul care prompt is an opportunity to get into your body, to connect with your inner child and start addressing any unconscious hurts that may be obstructing your capacity to address how white supremacy exists within you and how you engage in racial justice. When we aren't showing love to our shadow side and inner child, we can't dive into our inner realms to unearth all that needs bearing and caring for in order to show up for ourselves and others. So let's get connected. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'm already feeling like a whole lot of feels, because this is gonna ask me to dance. I don't dance. I don't dance. My feet don't move. They're just stuck in the ground, you know? I'm a good chair dancer. I'm an excellent car dancer. But if you ask me to move my feet, and the inner child is, yeah. Okay. That's why it's soul work. Maybe. I might have to do that. Maybe. That's why it's soul care, right? Okay. Whew. Find a quiet space alone where you can turn on one of your favorite tunes or just one that you love dancing to. After you hit play, turn it up, close your eyes, and move your body in whatever way you are able to and that feels good. Or simply envision yourself moving in your mind's eye. No matter how silly you may feel, think you appear. Oh, I don't even know. This is going to take some pop and prompt some thinking on because, god damn, there's the shadow under the stairs. She's poking her head up. Gotta let her out. Oh. No matter how silly you may feel or think you appear, this is the time to shake shit up and out. If you feel stuck, shake your hands or feet or nod your head if you're able. Sing along in your mind or out loud. Let yourself take up space. Oh, I love Shout by Tears for Fears. It's one of my favorites. As you move, envision your inner child there. Dancing alongside you and cheering you on. Oh. However your inner child shows up is perfectly fine. Maybe they appear like they did when you were little. Maybe it's a ball of light or just a feeling. Keep dancing and focus your energy on calling in your inner child. Oh, I don't know that one, Renee. Dance, listen to any messages or words of affirmation your inner child wants to share with you. Oh, twist and shout, yes. Dance for the duration, or the Beatles. Yeah, okay, I'm following. Dance for the duration of the song, or longer if that feels good. And when you're done, reflect on the following. Oh, fuck, I didn't even get to the questions yet. Damn. Hang on. I gotta take care of this. All right. Questions. Oh, yeah, a little bit louder now. Okay, thank you. You know you make me wanna. I follow you. All right. Whew. Questions. How did it feel to get into my body? What, if anything, did my inner child just share with me, words, images, or emotions? What has caused my inner child? Yes, we are. What has caused my inner child pain? How is that pain obstructing my ability to care for myself and others, especially Black and Indigenous women? How can I better acknowledge the ways white supremacy has impacted my shadow self? In what ways has white supremacy caused me to deny, dissociate, or defend the truth of who I am? Oh, fuck me. What does my inner child need more of? Perhaps play, rest, joy, support, or more. Take a few moments to journal these responses, or if you're still in the mood to play, draw a picture or make up a dance or song to reflect each answer. If you find yourself feeling anxious or overwhelmed as you move through the book or beyond, come back to your inner child. Pause, check in, and ask what your inner child needs most. For more support moving through the personal and collective grief, keep up my curated grief resources at rachelricketts.com grief resources. Oh, man. Oh, I thought we were in chapter 2. That was chapter 3. Ha-ha! I love it when we get to jump ahead because I counted wrong. Well, I got to be a mess there at the end. Whew. Anybody want to talk? Anybody want to discuss? Oh. What is she scared of? She is terrified. Being seen and observed. Of being seen and observed. Definitely. Whoa, what happened? Glitching. I lost everybody. That's weird. What the hell? What the hell? Damn. Ah, did it again. What the fuck? What the fuck? I don't know, because it's not kicking me out. It's just kicking everybody off. Keep saying no. I guess so. Well, fine then. I didn't really want to talk about it anyway. That was a really... Go get a drink of water. And then I'm going to find a comfort show. And I'm going to finish my... start a new dots. I did finish my other dots. If you guys want to see spring, I'll show you spring. Let me check this off. Boop. Nope, not that button. This one. And then this one. And then that one. And then... Here you go. Ooh. Spring is done. So now I need to get more frames. Thank you. And then summer. We'll do summer next. So I really like it though. It turned out really pretty. And it's so shiny. Ooh. Oh, Danny. God damn. The soul work. The soul care prompt killed me, man. Ooh. Ooh. Baby Sarah, little baby Sarah in my heart was like, I want to dance. Why won't you let me dance? I gotta get good and high. That's what I've got to say. So I'm gonna go garden. Shoo. Yeah, she is. I'm gonna garden. I'm gonna get a drink of water. I'm gonna step outside and touch grass. So we'll talk more. We'll read more tomorrow, guys. Thanks for joining me for reading time. Yeah. Yep. I will. Good night, everybody.